So what I've got Dawn here today because we are going to try to split an entire winter's worth of firewood. This thing can outrun you day in, day out, every day of the week. So the plan is to get the old splitter out here, which is the Cadillac of splitters. Is Cadillac still a good car? I don't know. It's the Porsche of splitters. Anyways, it's a really good splitter. Well guys, I feel I should include this in the evaporator build, and the primary reason for that is because evaporating water takes a lot of energy. And when I say a lot of energy, it takes a lot of resources, whether it's electricity, propane, natural gas. It takes a lot of energy to evaporate water. So this brings me to my firewood pile in the bush. So there you can see behind me is the firewood pile. I start this pile in the middle of summer. I collect all summer in anticipation of splitting near the end of winter. We're kind of in the middle of winter, near the end of winter. This stuff isn't going to be burned this year. It's going to be burned next year at the very earliest. Ideally, you're 2 or 3 years ahead on your wood burning. Easton made 1222 splitter. My buddy over at Easton made, Andrew Easton, you know, I reached out to him a couple years ago and said, I want this really awesome splitter, and he says, yeah, let's do this. You know, if anybody knows me, I like firewood, and if you're gonna spend some money, now spend the money on the best. This is the best splitter there is. We're gonna give it a little bit of a workout. We've got some tree service wood. That's where this stuff is from. And so it's not the straightest of stuff. It's knotty, got some big crotch. We're gonna put it through its paces. Again, I don't know if I can find my wedges. With this splitter, you actually have a bunch of different wedges with it, like a box wedge and a 6-way and a 4-way. They may be buried in snow somewhere. Sun's shining, it's about 3 degrees, and I'm splitting wood. You guys, if you guys watched my video on urban firewood collection, this is the urban firewood collection for the summertime. We did 12 crates, 12 of these little boxes, and I believe they're about a face cord of wood. So we did 12 face cord. So yeah, we're gonna continue on today because when the sun's shining, you gotta make wood. And it's important to have dry firewood, especially when you're trying to evaporate maple syrup or heat your home. To talk a little bit about firewood storage, this is my way of doing it. These wooden crates, originally I found them at, was it another industrial place? They had them out front. And I think the original use was they used to ship 5-gallon pails of lacquer or paint or commercial, could have been oil, who knows. It turns out they're the perfect weight for my tractor. I can't lift much more than this thing full. And I can get about a face cord of wood in these bins. There's another option for firewood storage is the IBC totes, which is the metal cages. The problem with those guys is they're slightly too big for me to actually lift if they're full. That was 3 days of splitting. I ended up splitting probably about 10 hours worth of splitting over a 3-day period. We ended up splitting 27 face cord. And if you want to know how many bush cord that is, divide that number by 3. So yeah, it's 27 face cord in about 10 hours. We used this Easton made 1222 log splitter. This is the 3rd season of firewood splitting I've done with this beast. I should do a cool tool segment. This isn't really a tool, it's more like a machine. Like this is substantial. This thing's a monster. If you're serious about firewood and you want to process a lot of firewood consistently fast, this is the guy. Easton made 1222. Weighs about 2,000 pounds. It's solid steel. It's manufactured in Canada. Easton Made is the company. What's neat about it is there's interchangeable wedges, meaning you can actually slide this guy out and change it for a 4-way wedge, a box splitter, or in this case it's a 6-way wedge. It's got a hydraulic cooler. It's got a 12 horsepower Honda engine on it. It's got the log lift which is back saver, you know, to get to split wood, like, you know, long into old age. This is a must. It makes firewood splitting fun again. If you hit these 2 levers, it automatically goes through, splits the wood, and it retracts, which is a really big time saver. And you got your wedge up, wedge down, oversized push plate, so you got monster blocks, you can push them all the way through, nice even push. It's got some wear parts versus some brass pieces that easily serviceable if you ever need to, if you ever wear those things out. I can't imagine why you would ever wear them out. It's roadworthy. You can tow it behind your truck or your heavy duty car. This thing's a cool tool. Easton made 1222 log splitter, and you know what? They're not even a sponsor. I just like their product. It's awesome. Anyways, let's get back to making an evaporator. We snowing today, but it was warm on the weekend. So we're gonna button that, hopefully button that up. I got some extra parts for it. I've got to cut the chimney in and the firebox door. Yeah, it's one of those indoor projects kind of day. I took a couple of the old hinges I had saved up. Everybody's got a milk crate full of hinges, don't they? And I was able to use those, the weldable hinges. They got no holes on them, so you have to weld them. So I welded those on to the firebox door in order for it to open and close. Once I had the hinges welded onto the front of the firebox door, I took the opportunity to actually take my flap disc wheel and grind the paint off of the oil drum in order to have a clean surface for the firebox door to adhere to. I find welding, if you've got 2, you know, bare steel parts, it's easier to weld. I'm learning. We started tapping our maple trees today. We collected these buckets over the last couple of years. They're old frosting containers from the grocery store. They usually have them stored out back. They don't store them for very long. If they have them, they give them to you. They usually don't like to save them. So we drilled a 1-inch hole in the bucket, and we were able to basically pound the spile into the tree after we drill our hole, hang the bucket, and we put a nail on to hold the bucket up. And then we put our lid on so the rainwater doesn't get in, because if we got to boil off rainwater, it's actually more work. And then once our buckets are full, we can actually go collect them without having any rainwater in them. And that's as easy as that. We're just waiting for the sap to flow. It's not really above zero. So the sap flows from the tree when it's above zero. So ideally you have really cold nights and really warm days, and that's the differential that makes the sap flow. It's kind of like a pump. So Don and I were talking about why the tree, actually the sap comes up, and the sap is stored in the roots over the winter time. And what was the word you used? Pipette? Pipette?
Like a pipette action.
A pipette action, or
capillary action.
Capillary action is causing the sap to come out of the roots and up into the foliage of the tree to produce buds and produce leaves in the summertime. And that's where the goodness is stored, the sweet sap. So the what is it, 40 to 1? We need 40 gallons of maple sap to produce 1 gallon of maple syrup, and that's where the boiling process comes. We don't have our evaporator done, so I think we're gonna go work on that now, because all this maple sap collection is for nothing unless we have a way to actually reduce it to maple syrup. Gonna do some welding. It's not above zero yet. It's a nice day in the bush though. Let's take a walk down to where we're gonna build the sugar shack, because we saw it the other day where we were kind of clearing the trail, and then it snowed a whole bunch, so we might be back to square one. But we're kind of walking that way anyway, so we might as well take a look at it. It's also good to pack a trail. You can see how big these maple trees are. All the way up. That's a big maple. You can tell a maple tree by the shape of its leaf. If you look at the Canadian flag, that's a maple leaf. If you didn't know. You can see our pad. Our pad's actually quite, it's quite good actually. Looks like it's nice and packed down. It's got, we're pretty much down to ground or soil. But we've got to get our evaporator set up first before we even start building this, because I think a lot of this build's going to happen while we boil our sap down. It's pretty good shape. What do you think, Don?
Looks good.
Good. We can build on this, right? Be nice. They don't have a fire going, being productive while being productive. Because it's kind of like watching paint dry when you're boiling sap. It's kind of like evaporating. It's like watching a pot boil. It's like Christmas time. My Princess Auto order came in. I had to order a bunch of stuff, and they happened to have it was a 10-pack of flap discs. I've been using this school. I didn't realize that the flap disc isn't supposed to look like this. I thought they just lasted forever, so I ended up getting the 10-pack of flap discs. Princess Auto had them on sale, so I ordered them and they got delivered right to the door. But I didn't realize this is what they're supposed to look like, which is like, that looks aggressive. I mean, pretty welds now. Don't even have to be a good welder anymore if you got a good flap disc. Power fist. Sounds like a strong disc. Here's a cool tip. If you need a weird shape cut out of something, you can pretty much make it out of cardboard and drop it off at your local welding shop, and they're usually more than happy to make you, something that as long as you give them a template and you kind of give them, carte blanche on when they want to do it. You give them no timeline. You just kind of like, when you got some time, can you cut this thing out? You toss them a couple of bucks. They're usually more than happy to do it. So what I did was I actually dropped off a template to my buddy Dennis at the welding shop, and it was the front of the evaporator. And I kind of gave him the shapes of where the fire door is going to be in the ash clean out. So he ended up cutting that thing on the water table. So it does a really nice job. Everything fits very precisely. So I had to, once I welded it in place, in order to open the door, once I had everything welded, I kind of wiggled it and it busted it off where it was holding just a little bit. So it's perfectly lined up now that everything's welded together. I did the same thing with the ash clean out. It was a little more tricky, so I'd use a little plasma cutter and just nip it off. The ash clean out doubles kind of as a damper to add more oxygen to the fire. And what's going to be really cool about that is actually the air can get up inside underneath the fire where you want it. So that'll be perfect. So now we're just cutting out the pieces for the tray where the firewood actually is going to sit inside the firebox. We're going to weld those guys onto the side of the firebox in order to have our wood sit on top of that. And then the ash could kind of dangle all down below. I was able to use the rest of the arch that we cut off, and I flattened it out by stomping on it. And then I took the grinder and I cut off basically, what was it? They called it an arch. That goes from the firebox up to the chimney, and that just kind of directs the smoke up, kind of reflects the heat up to the pan, the underside of the evaporator pan. And then I welded on a stick to hold up the thing as we jammed it in so we didn't get our fingers pinched, and then I welded it in place. Surprising how well it fit. Can you guys see that in there? That's the angle iron, and I've spaced it a little bit apart so the fine ash falls down below into this ash container down below, so I can actually scoop it up. This door doubles as a damper, so allows me to increase the heat by increasing oxygen to the flame, which is going to be underneath. And you know, if you want a fast boil or you want to, you know, increase the temperature, you can adjust it by opening and closing this door. Nice big firebox. I just got to line it with some Roxol and some fire brick if I can find some. It might be just Roxol board this year because I might not be able to find fire brick. Got a little bit more welding, but that's not the funnest thing to be watching me do. I'm not that great at it. Oh, hey. Hey, Bean. Bean says hello. All right, let's, I got one more thing to do, which is the top lid, because the lid itself, you want to be able to, when you pull off your evaporator pan, you want to be able to close the lid so there's not flames shooting up in your cabin. And it also, in the off season, you can kind of close the lid on it and keep stuff out of it. Well, that throws a wrench into productivity, doesn't it? So I was just buttoning up some other stuff, and I was asking Don if he could just kind of plow a path down to our shack location, and well, it turns out the snow is slipperier than we anticipated, and Don slid into a tree and got stuck. We got her out, no problem, no big deal. It's just kind of par for the course when you're working in the bush, and especially when it's snowing. And you're thinking, why don't I have chains on the back tires? Well, the dealer sold me some chains, and it turns out they don't fit on the tractor because the tire is too close to the frame, and it doesn't allow the chain to pass by the frame and the tire. So you need wheel spacers, but they failed to mention that. So anyways, we got a plan for the back tire chain problem. It's possibly on its way. Hopefully it's on its way, and then we can get back in the bush with chains and not worry about getting stuck. And it's more of a sliding sideways problem, and especially when you're on an incline like that. You can't really tell how much of an incline we are at. Maybe take the tractor and take the long way around and kind of straight shot down the hill. It's always sketchy when you're on a hill with a tractor. It always kind of wants to either roll or slide. See if I can give it one go. Hopefully this is not another video of me getting the tractor unstuck. What'd you find?
Titleist. Anyone lose a Titleist?
That's a pretty good tee shot from there. Yeah, you can't even see the cube.
Just one.
Just one? You gotta find the other one. We'll find the other one soon. What you got there?
Somebody's nest.
Somebody's nest.
I don't know.
It's a toupee.
It's a bunch of cedar shavings. Somebody's nest.
It's probably like a mouse.
Ah! They didn't even jump.
All right, so we have our area cleared here. We're ready for some logs. So we're gonna go grab those shortly, but first we gotta make a trail, and it seems to be proving to be quite difficult. Again, it's because of this applesauce type snow. It doesn't really pack, and there's no real traction, and there's no chains on the tires. It's not the easiest thing to be doing. Let's go grab some logs and see if we can get them down here, because that's the next step in this process. Is we got to get our building material down here, and that's going to probably be, again, it's one of the hardest things to do is get your material there. Even in construction, when you're dealing with housing construction, like half the job is to get your material into the basement or into the house, and then the other job is to actually hang the board. So yeah, just getting these logs down here is going to be a chore. So let's see if we can get some of these down here today, so we're ready to have our pile of wood so we can actually build our shack. It is warming up a little bit. sap's going to start flowing. Like I said, we're going to be boiling regardless if this cabin's built or not, because gives you something to do while you're boiling sap. Well, there's pretty much the last log that we need. We've got about 40 logs or something, and if we don't have enough, we know where to get them. So that's the pile there. We're all set to build now. Hopefully the weather warms up and the sap starts running so we can start boiling. It's like a Jack in the Box.
It's a cool product. It's like, it's gonna solve all of your problems around the homestead. Open it this way so people can see. Pop it open. What do you see?
Oh, look at that!
Just a little bit of a decoy on the front there.
Oh, is that what?
We'll work sharp decoy.
Ooh, look at. I think I know what this is.
I didn't open it.
You didn't open it.
I can't be certain that the product is any good.
Oh.
Don't let it fall on the ground.
Ooh.
So you can read that letter later. It's very touching.
Is it?
It's from the headquarters of YouTube.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Look at.
It's a form letter from Susan Wojcicki.
Wojcicki.
Yeah, you read that. We probably want to get that frame too.
Get that frame. Look at, you know what that is? That's the. Wow. Let's like take it right out of the package and then drop it on the ground. Ooh. Look how shiny that guy is. That's the passing 100,000 subscribers. That's an accomplishment. It's because of you guys.
So you don't get the next one till you get to 1 million. But it might happen in the next year or two.
Look, you can see yourself in it. It's
very
like,
shiny.
Can you see yourself in that thing? Ooh, that's very shiny. Cool. Very, very neat. You hang it on a tree?
You can if you want.
There's a lot of work, this thing.
You probably don't want to hang it in one of the cabins in case they burn down, but
hey, what? It's metal. It won't burn.
You can turn it into something if you want to. Melt it down and
make it into like back into pop cans.
I don't know. Not too many people have ever probably seen one in person, but it's a pretty substantial piece.
It is.
It's very well made. It's very nice.
They pulled out all the stops, YouTube, when they did this.
And you can take your time and read the form letter they gave you. It's very touching.
She signed it though.
Yeah.
They gave you the card.
Susan signed it. She's really liking your channel. Oh, everybody played a role. And you don't get 100,000 subscribers without everybody out there.
That's true.
So really, the biggest role is obviously the subscribers.
That's right. So you guys each own 1/100,000th of this. Unless you've subscribed twice, but in that case, thank you twice.
Yeah,
Cool.
So for anybody who doesn't know, I edit the channel, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here. I'm around. I'm
Yeah.
always around behind the scenes.
That's right. He always shows up at the end of the video. Have you ever noticed that? When the work is done, because he picks up the footage and edits it.
And I make sure all the loose ends are tied so that you guys get a complete story. Because sometimes there's not a complete story.
There's a lot of stuff rattling around in here. It doesn't always make sense, and you got to edit it to make a story.
Make a story. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Making stories so that you guys can share with us.
It's very cool. Well, hopefully you guys, stick around for the 1 millionth.
And if everybody shares this 10 times, you'll get to 1 million. If everybody they know subscribes. So there you go. It should be tomorrow.
Let's see if the
You guys, everybody knows 10 people.
You know what? We got to pile a couple more logs, but this is as much log piling as you guys can handle, I imagine, for this video. We've got another like 10 trips down here, so.
And what happens next video? This is what usually the feedback he gets.
He's just chirping.
And then on the next video.
On the next video, what you're going to see is us putting this thing together, and you're going to see boiling maple syrup if the weather cooperates.
Oh, it's going to cooperate.
So we're going to get warm weather. We're going to be boiling. It's going to be maple syrup's going to, the smell is going to be, you're not going to get the smell, but you're going to see the steam. We're going to eat the maple syrup, maybe. I don't know, we'll get that far, but we're going to stack some logs and boil some maple sap off.
This is where the editing comes into play.
That's right.
But I'm gonna leave this go raw. I'm gonna let it go raw so you guys can see.
No, don't go. You gotta edit.
That's good.
You gotta edit.
Just free flow it right now. Are they gonna see the end of the evaporator? Is it finished?
Did
they have the pan yet?
Well, the pan, we're relying on a subcontractor for the pan, so you can never really rely on a subcontractor. They've got loose deadlines. So that one, it should be ready by the end of this week, which is in a couple of days.
We'll be next week, or next week, because they're always a week behind.
That's right.
So, so the editing time frame.
Yeah.
Okay, wrap up your video real quick.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.